It's your hostess with the mostest and your brother from another mother that truly ain't got no other. It's AB.Marley. Hey guys, how we doing today?
It's your girl Nevaeh, your sister from another mister, because you know
Papa
Papa was a Rolling Stone. And today is Tuesday.
Happy Talk Tuesdays, everybody. I hope you're doing.
And this is our first
Number one, uno.
Talk Tuesday.
This is going to be going through our week trials. And so since we have completed Mindset Mondays for the acronym, you guys should always go make sure you check those videos out as well. Tell us what you think and leave comments in the section below. Also, make sure you guys like and subscribe. What our show is always about is readjusting the way you think and the way you move throughout your entire life. And one of those segues that we can do that is having conversations, talking, communicating, listening, those sorts of things. It's all going to be about.
Alright guys, so for our first Talk Tuesday, we are going to bring up parents who live vicariously through their children.
Yeah.
We just kind of feel like that's a subject that a lot of people don't talk about, and it has been one of those things to where it has been accepted by society to where people just kind of turn a blind eye to it, and we just don't address it anymore.
I give a few examples so that our audience can understand what we're talking about.
So when I say parents living through their children, it could be like the most minor thing to a really big, severe thing, which is, parents wanting their kids to go to colleges that they have been through to. Parents who have a military background through generations, now their child is expected to go through it. Or it could even be something as simple as a parent seeing their child having a talent and they exploit their children by basically forcing them into some type of labor, and they're getting money off of it, like child actors or child singers, things of that nature. Those would be more severe cases, because those are things that now you're not just exposed, you're exposing your child to a whole nother lifestyle than something that they should not be living in.
You can even add in pageants for little girls.
Pageants are definitely one. You got so many of these little girls who just want to be kids, and they are wearing lashes bigger than mine, full face makeup, dresses, ball gowns, and then that turns into a whole nother situation to where now these little girls are now being even sexualized, and you don't even realize that. And it's really difficult when you're talking about parents living through their children, because parents who generally speaking that do end up living through their children are parents that have experienced something in their life to either where it has put a hold on something that they were trying to do in their life, or either they see that their child has something and they want their child to fall in their footsteps, and it's unfair for that child because that child feels like, well, if I don't do this, then I'm not one of them. I don't belong. And it's a kind of force that the parents put on them to where it's not even really a choice, it's an obligation. This is something that you have to do. It's not even like, this is what you want. Like, you have to do this, and if you don't do this, then you're not my child. You're not part of me. You're not part of this family.
I got another example I can put out there. So you know how so you have both mothers and fathers, and each of them have their own expectation of what their child should do. So like, for an example, a mother is very overprotective of their son. They always want them to never be hurt, harmed in any form of the way. They will practically bathe with them. And men can be more emotional than women can, but we do not express it enough because of the fact of how society looks at it, okay? So then you have the father, and he does not want his daughter to become what he did to other women in his days that he grew up, because like all that experience that you gave yourself and the way you were treating that individual, you're like, ooh, I don't want my daughter to turn into the love of my life that I have, or my baby's mama, who's like very similar, that I was treating that individual, I shouldn't say baby mother, I should say the mother of my child, or the father of my child, because like you shouldn't be putting them down, because at the end of the day you both created a life and you both got to take care of it. But with that being said, it's now that you see all the stuff that you do, and you put this expectation on what their child should be. So it's like, well, I want my child to be married, have a bunch of kids, or I expect my child to live through to be the hold in which can bring our family out of the slums. You know what I'm saying? Like, and believe me when I say, like, being a child and watching your parents struggle and do the best that they can I was raised in a single family household for a certain amount of years until my grandmother all decided to live in one big household and raise 3 boys. And that was a trip within itself, because there was always this expectation in the household that I had to live up to. Since I'm the oldest, I have the most responsibility. I am the most capable of consciously making decisions in order to protect my younger siblings. With that being said, it was too much. I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot. That was a lot to bear on my shoulders alone. And then the other aspect of it is, you gotta remember, like, I'm a boy at this time. There's nothing but women in my life. And I didn't have that male figure to come to me and say, hey, look, you're gonna go through these body changes. You're gonna go through these emotional baggages. Like, being as a man, like, this is the idea of who a man is, and but you shouldn't live up to that expectation. You should live up to your very own, because each man is different from each other, just like each woman is. And you can't expect your previous relationship dictate your current one, in the sense of, if all these things were so good and it was so great and you're still waiting to get back with Mr. or Mrs. Right, but you're losing track of that relationship didn't work because of a list of things, whether it was communication, whether it was a lack of, composure, or not composure, but like bonding. Okay, so we'll just use those two as slight examples.
You know what? Just to add on to that, you actually made a very valid point, which is, I've seen so many women who are single parents, and they have these little boys, their sons, and they dress their sons to be the men that they desire to have. And you are portraying your own image of who you want in that little boy. And sometimes, single mothers, their sons grow up and they are so used to not even really being with a man that they don't even realize that they have.
You mean the mothers of the
sons? The mothers of the sons don't even realize that they have, in a sense, created a boundary around their son, to like, no woman can have him, no woman can this, no woman can that. And it's almost like, you're competing. A girl, whatever woman that steps into this man's life, you are now competing with the mother, because the mother feels like, this is my son, I've been with him for this many amount of years, this is the man of the house, and he is this and he is that. And to a degree, the mothers kind of fade that line between relationship and motherhood, because they're so used to that son being there.
And also, to add on to that, it's like, you also got to remember something, that your child is a completely different individual. Whether or not that your child reminds you of a past relationship that you had, or situationship that you did, that is not the same person. And I dislike it when those comments came out, like, you just like your daddy. I'm not saying particularly like my mother would say stuff like that, but I grew up with people whose parents would literally be like, oh, you just like your damn daddy, or you just like your mama. And it's like, whoa.
You look like them too.
And you're putting that negative derogative on them to where they won't even accept it. What I did get a lot though, you just like your auntie. And it's like, hold up, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? It's like, are you downing her for things that she's done, or like, what are you talking about? And it's like it never correlated with me until I became an adult, and I started seeing some of the stuff my auntie was doing, and I was like, oh, okay, we have these type of similarities, but the way it's being perceived in my mind is like you're putting her down, and that's not the way about to go things. Now, not necessarily that they were, being mean or evil or rude. It was just like there are traits that I reflected off of my family members, to which when they saw that, that's when they would make that. As I was saying, what I don't want to happen, it's the fact that you guys gotta cut that out of the habits, because all you're doing is putting pressure on your child even more.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing can be said about fathers when we have our, I have nieces, okay? I have a nephew and I have 3 nieces. And I've come to realize that all the things that, my fellow brothers and guys that were, we were having these conversations about girls and talking, and, like sometimes we would dog, and it's vice versa too, because my female friends would be doing the same thing about dudes. And then you sit there and you look back and you go like, wow, I was, in a sense pretty bogus, depending on the situation of the conversation we were having. And I don't want my nieces to go through that. And it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on a minute. It was okay when it was somebody else's daughter, but now it's different because it's blood. It's
exactly.
Like you can't, if you're gonna treat your daughter that way, and say you're not going to go through the same things that I put other women through, then you gotta have that same self-respect for the woman that you're spending your time with. And I say that truly and dearly. Like it's not just one side, it's both sides. Mothers do it, fathers do it. They have that tendency to always put either too much pressure on them or try to make them to be the ideal person that they wish to be in a relationship with.
Another thing is, even just going off of that, you have, sometimes you have these parents, and let's just keep on the subject of boys, and like you said, the father might have been like a big Mac, back in his day or whatever like that, and let's say that he has a son, and let's say his son is like a decent young guy, and his son can have any girl that his son wants to have, and let's say his son wants to be loyal, and even his father would say, well, no, you shouldn't be like that because you got this, you got that. You shouldn't just be sticking with one girl. You can have whoever you want. You can do whatever you want, but you can't live through your child and try to recreate the situation that you had when you were growing up and expecting your child to do the same thing that you did. You have to remember that you as a parent, yes, your child is your child. They have your DNA. They may have some of your personality, but at the end of the day, your child is not you and you are not your child. And you have to learn how to separate that. One, age definitely plays a part in that separation.
Each generation does things differently. You gotta remember, just because things were different in your time does not mean it's not gonna be for somebody else. Your parent was looking at their life and how they grew up and wanted to reflect and say, you know what, it wasn't that bad. Things weren't going that crazy. I want my child to live the same life I did. And it's like, hold on a minute. I get that, and I appreciate you trying to teach me old school ways, because you can learn about new school without learning about old school.
Exactly.
But then that same thing goes through life. You need to understand that as a parent, you always have to learn. Like, you're always a student, forever learning, and you have to be a teacher for your child. You have to teach your child how, when it comes to sexual orientations. It's like, even though you might not agree with it, it might not be your thing and you were hoping for something different, doesn't mean that your child is any different of a person. It's like if my mother was disappointed in me because I was gay, you know what I'm saying? Just because of that fact, we can't relate to anything because of that simple fact. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. I'm still your son. I still have the name that you bestowed upon me. It's just there's one slight difference about me, and that shouldn't change the love that you have for me. Just accept the changes that you didn't expect and just love me for who I am. And thankfully for me, my mom was not like that. She was very straight to the point. Like, she didn't deny nothing. She was just like, look, I've seen a lot of signs. I was just waiting on you to say something to me. I'd rather my son just be straight up honest with me than BS me around about all this other crap. And we built a very decent relationship during that time. And for me on my side, it was a lot of more work. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like just me accepting myself was hard enough, because you got to remember, like in our communities, you know, we have a lot of religious beliefs, and we always self-reflect on what people think when they see our children, because the way we talk about other people's children. I can't believe your kid is doing this. I can't believe this stuff is happening. Oh, that's to be expected from you because that's how your child is acting. It's like, hold on a minute. Just because I'm doing something wrong and I make my mistake doesn't mean my child is. Doesn't mean my nieces or nephews are. It's the same correlation. You cannot have this expectation of what you think these kids are going to be just based off their parents. Yes, it does correlate from time to time, but there are people out here who have been in the slums and got the fuck out and moved past it and are living a better life. There are some of us who live in a great neighborhood and it still don't make no sense why they're, you know, making the choices that they're making or doing the stupid things that they do. But you can have great parents, but you yourself as a human being can be spoiled to where you have the lack of knowledge of understanding what is going on. And, you know, all I'm saying is, once again, don't have an expectation or an idea of what you think it's supposed to be. You should just have no expectation, pat them on the back for the great job they do, tell them to pat themselves on the back, and say, okay, what's the next thing you're gonna do? Because if you doing this, I gotta get my stride back on, you know what I'm saying?
See, the thing is, we as people, we as humans, you know, especially for those people who are parents, you have a certain guideline already built in your head as to what you think something should be like, how it should go, the way it will go. It's already planned out, mapped out in your head. You know, you already set up a college fund. You already probably got maybe like a credit card for your kid right now, you know, just trying to set them up to get to where they need to be. But the number one thing is that people get, you know, especially parents, you get so wrapped up into the whole, well, my child has to be like this.
My child is perfect.
My child is perfect. My child has to be like this because this is what I did and I expect nothing less. But you have to understand, your child is your child and they're going to live their life the way that they live it. You can give them all the rules, all the guidelines, all the praise, all the everything in the world. But at the end of the day, you cannot live through your child. And it is unfair for you to force certain ideas upon them and make them feel like they have no way out because of that. That's not fair to them because they can't be who they really want to be. And they feel like the only way they are accepted by you is if they do what they feel is only acceptable to you.
Right.
And that's not right. That's going to the military. That's going to college. That's being a child actor. That's being a person that does music. Just
being a parent or an adult trying to live their own life and discover themselves on what they can do. That's basically what we are sitting here saying. There are many different categories. There are many different ways you can do this. But you have to remember your child is an independent person that has their own way of going. And I'm not talking about the kids that are 18 and under. Maybe I should say like 17. Because correct, they still live under your roof, they still have to abide by your rules. That's just how, you know, things work, because it's a lot of work.
I mean, but even still, I mean, even with that, I mean, you still have, you know, teenagers who are 17, 16, 18 years old who are with their parents, and they still have these certain strict guidelines that they have to go through, you know, just to even be with them. You know, it's some parents that are like, well, you know what, you know, I was going to get you a car, but because you don't even want to go to Princeton no more, like I went to Princeton, now you're not going to get that car. Now you're not going to get that scholarship, or now you're not going to be able to get this fund that you were going to get because you are going against what I was telling you to do.
Right. And I get it, and it can be frustrating and it's nerve-wracking, but just like you were when you were a young teenager, when you were a young adult, and your parents are doing the same thing to you, or parents, shouldn't you accept the fact that you you didn't live up to your parents' expectations, or if you did and you regret it, then why would you do the same thing to somebody else? If there's something in your life that doesn't make you happy and makes you unacceptable of who you are as a person, then why would you place that upon somebody else so that you can just laugh about it?
Mhm.
So can you just go like, you know, because I had to suffer, you have to suffer. It's like, that's not how that works.
You know what, too? You know, some of it might also be that some of these parents who do live through their children, you know, because they may have went through something in their life that could have been life-changing, like having a child at a young age, and now they are trying to relive a moment that got taken away from them, and they see some of themselves in that child, and they're like, ooh, that was me. That was me. Maybe if I get you to do this, then maybe you can be what I wasn't. But what if that child doesn't want to be what you want it to be? What if just because they got the skill for it, what if they don't want to do that?
Let them come around to do it.
Let them do it.
Let them find their own path and their own journey. Yes, you can do your guide. You can be the guy and say, well, listen, this is what I experienced, this is what I went through. You know, you don't have to explain everything to them at a young age. You can, you know, slowly but surely break down each and every individual thing that you wish to express to your children.
Yeah.
And one of those things I actually wanted to like touch upon just slightly, it's, you know how like we have those parents who do not explain this to your child, and they came back and said, oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, we're pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Or it could be like, my body's not acting the way it's supposed to be doing. I don't know what's going on. Be taken to the hospital. It's like you find out that they got, you know, an STD or something even worse than that. And it's like, and then they have these outbursts where like, I can't believe you did this, that you are not my child, because this is not how the ideal of the life I wanted you to have. This is not what I want. And it's like, hold on, wait a minute. Did you have that conversation? Did you talk about it?
It's
and
not.
If it's you didn't, then that's your problem.
See, the thing with that is, it's more deeper. See, when you touch into territory of that degree, it's more so if you're dealing with a parent that's like that, that parent, generally speaking, is controlling. They feel like they have to have control over every aspect of your life, especially if they are living through their child. They feel like they have to know any and everything that their child is going to do. And that child who is being heavily monitored, they're gonna start acting out. They're gonna start doing things that would be out of character. It's not them being out of character, they're rebelling because they're like, why can't I do this? I want to do it because I want to do it. You don't want to do it, I'm going to do what I want to do because I want to do it, and that's just what it's going to be.
Every aspect of my life, I might as well start raising.
They can't, if they want to feel like they have some control over something, if they feel like they don't have any control over anything. And the number one thing is, especially if you are a parent who, whether you are living vicariously through your child or not, whether you realize it or you don't, you have to understand that one day, your child will be an adult, and any and every single thing that they have done and you have told them to do and they have completed it, whether it was good or bad, at some point in time they will have some type of regret because they never got to live their life that they wanted to live because they were living their life for you and not for them. And at some point in time, maybe they will, maybe they won't tell you, but that is something that they have to live with because they're like, I wasted all my teenage years, I wasted all my adult years doing what my parents wanted me to do, and look at me now. Look at how many celebrities that we have that were kids that became, that are famous still now, how their life spiraled and things of that nature. Some of it had to do with their parents forcing them into that type of labor and they couldn't get out of it because they were so good. And it led them to a darker path, using drugs, going to rehab plenty of times, being blacklisted as actors and things of that nature adventure and then getting back on track. But ultimately, they had to leave their parents for them to get onto a roll, to be able to get their life back the way how they wanted their life to be. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to let go of your parents in order for you to really live your life the way that you want to live it without it being a detriment to you or to them.
And we're not stating in any which way that like everybody raises their children differently. You have a certain way of doing things, and I understand that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
What we're trying to just sit here and say, we're just trying to give you a little bit of advice from experience from a child growing up, just like how you were at some point. There were some aspects of your life that you didn't like that your parents were doing, so you told yourself that I'm not going to do the same things my parents did to me. To say to you guys, and I want you guys to understand this, we talked about putting your perspective or living through your child, through the means in which you wish the life that you had for yourself. Understand that we have to let our nieces, nephews, cousins, grandchildren, the younger generation live their own life and let them make those mistakes, because what you're doing is allowing your child to understand, like, when you mess up, these are the consequences of your actions. I can't sit here and protect you forever, but what I can do is give you the knowledge that I've experienced throughout my life, and hopefully you can do better than I can. When you don't have those expectations for your children, or when you don't have expectations for certain things in life becomes a lot, to me it becomes a lot better for you, or for myself, because what I see is anything good that happens in my life, I can literally sit there and go like, oh, that was great. Pat myself on the back, call it a day, and keep it moving. And it'll be more exciting that way compared to just actually having the idea of I'm supposed to get this, I deserve this, I want this, and it never happens, or it doesn't happen in the pace that I want it to, so it turns into basically being disappointed within yourself. So cherish what you have, love what you do, make sure that you take well good care of you guys yourselves. The whole point of this video is to grow and evolve and become better people. We have these random conversations. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But whatever the case might be, if it correlates with you or somebody else that you care for, make sure that you share this video with them and like you guys have these deep down conversations.
Like it and subscribe if this information is hitting you. I understand, as adults and even as parents or guardians or aunts and uncles, that ultimately, generally speaking, we know that for some of you, living vicariously through your children may not be something that is intentional, and it might just be something that you're just doing unconscious, and we understand that. For some people, they do it on purpose. We know that you just want the best intention for the child that you are bringing up, but you also have to remember that even with you bringing this individual up, they still are going to make their own decisions. They are still their own person. They don't have the same desires and mindset and thought process that you have, because they are not you. They're not a younger version of you. They are no form a version of you. They may be similar to you to a small degree, but they are not you and you are not them, and you have to be able to separate the two. And I know that may be hard, but the reality of it is they are their own individual, and you have to let them do what they want to do, as long as it is not anything that is harmful to themselves, obviously. But you have to let them live their life and take their journey and go the way how they want to go, so they don't come to you being 30 or 40 years old talking about how they regret living the life that they led because they did what you wanted them to do and not what they wanted to do for themselves. Even if they were successful in doing what it was that you wanted them to do, that does not mean that that is something that they still wanted to do. My mom wanted me to go to school to be an accountant. I didn't want to be an accountant, and I'm still not going to school to be an accountant because that's not something that I want to do. And I've told this to my mom countless times. Every time I see my mom, she's like, "You gonna go to school to be an accountant?" No, Mom, I'm not. I appreciate, that you acknowledge that I'm smart and that I'm good with numbers and I'm good with math, but accounting is not something that I want to do. And my mom respects that. And I appreciate the fact that my mom respects it. Even when she asks, she still respects it. All in all, let them kids be who they want to be and stop forcing your own ideas on them because it sees fit to your own interpretation of how they should be or how they should be raised or something that will work for them. Because you aren't who you are because someone forced something on you. You are who you are because you took the initiative to live your life the way how you wanted to live it. Good, bad, ugly, great, success, not successful. You made the decisions to be where you are now, and you have to let them make those same decisions. Ultimately, they can't learn and they can't grow if they're doing everything your way.
So take that information and strive. Do the best that you can with the best of your abilities. Be happy with the life that you've been given. If you're not happy where you're at, then make the changes that you can to strive to become a better person. You guys have a wonderful day and we'll catch you guys later. Okay, have a good one.
Peace.